Hear us okay? Yeah, perfect.
Hey, hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Julio Villarreal Pellegrino. I'm a distinguished architect at Red Hat.
I'm Christian Yashevsky. I'm a senior principal solutions architect at Red Hat.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about the cloud journey that you don't want to take. You know, like we are going to frame a little bit of the business conversation that nobody wants to have when they are going to the cloud and how that impacts their success on the cloud journey. So I talk a lot about this slide. This is a version of a slide that I talk a lot. I put a lot of vendors on it, but we are all friends here, so I don't want to bring vendors into the mix. So we call this slide the value of that. And the idea with the message of this slide is like where you enter in your cloud journey actually matters. And what you do in your cloud journey matters a lot. So are you running legacy platform? Are you running an infrastructure as a service platform? Are you running CaaS or PaaS platforms, or are you using hyperscalers? Which one of these are you consuming right now? Most likely, if you are in the cloud journey, you are consuming multiple of these. And you have also your legacy infrastructure that you have to maintain. So the idea is, where are you in your cloud journey right now, or where did you enter your cloud journey? What we find out is like if you are not a greenfield company that is just being born in the cloud, entering on the right side of this journey could be the equality of entering into a valley of death. You know, like you will enter there and you probably will die because you have too much things that you have to maintain. You know, like you still have technical debt on your infrastructure component that you have to take care of. So how do you trade your return of investment in your legacy things? And how do you allow yourself the bandwidth and the resources to innovate on the right side of the cloud journey? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. And we're going to be referencing this slide back and forward, because I think that it's really important from a business point of view. But that's the main question to you today. Like, where did you enter the cloud journey? You know, like, did you enter far to the right, or did you start taking care of things from the left side of the slide?
Yeah, so just kind of, even though Julio did not want to list some of the vendors up there, I don't have that problem, and I broke down this chart into like these 4 categories, right? So generally, they're the legacy platforms, or what we call the traditional virtualization platforms. This is one of the either journey, or either source of your journey or your destination. It can be either one, but most of the customers we work with, they're super comfortable with the platform, right? These platforms are super mature. The one considerations we usually have with the customers running these platforms is cost, right? So whether you're moving into it or out of it, these are some of the key elements of that category. Next is OpenStack, right? We're at the Open Infra Summit here. OpenStack de facto won the whole infrastructure as a service open source platform, right? At the very beginning of the journey, there was a bunch of competing solutions that were trying to get into that space. OpenStack has won it. It's de facto the standard of the on-premise infrastructure as a service. It does require your data center considerations and investments. It does require a different set of skills, right? So moving from, let's say, your traditional Vert to something like OpenStack, it does require for your team to get retrained to look at that platform, just like the public cloud vendors are doing. So you need to start hiring SREs rather than system admins, for instance. You also manage that differently. You look at it from the service level objective rather than kind of speed and feeds, maybe what you do with the traditional platforms. Going down Kubernetes, right? We know that it's again another winner in the open source space. There was a lot of platforms back in the day that were trying to compete into this containers as a service space. Kubernetes won that battle. But also another platform that you can consider moving into or out from, right? And then we have a lot of customers that we work with. They're considering the cloud journey, and they're asking us, okay, so where do I go? Do I go to the OpenStack or do I go to the OpenShift, right? Or do I go to the public clouds, right? So some of the considerations, Kubernetes, there's a big overlap of the functionality and features with the OpenStack, right? But the platform has been born with the container in mind first, right? So keep that in mind. Like if your workload is heavy on the virtualization, there is a virtualization aspect in Kubernetes, which works really great. It moves really fast. It's amazing how quickly we see innovation in the KubeVirt of the Kubernetes. So that's another thing. And then finally, your public clouds, right? Like for 2 years ago, we've seen a big move in like when the COVID started, or 3 years ago, the COVID started, everyone moved to the public cloud, right? Because we don't want to own data center. We don't want to put people in the places where they can get sick and it's more cost effective. But that mindset has changing too, and there's some considerations there as well, right? Again, just like your traditional virtualization platforms, it's super mature. Those public cloud vendors, they invest a lot of money into keeping the experience as good as possible. They have also the service level objective kind of model of providing the resources. But cost might be another factor. We see a lot of customers that 3 or 2 years ago went into this public cloud journey. They're now scratching their heads and they're like, it was really great the first year, but now we're seeing the bill, after those 2 years. Maybe it's time to reevaluate and maybe turn the direction again, right? Okay, so what about the apps, right? So typically when we go to the like we call discovery sessions with the customers, they ask us like, which apps do we move first? They're like, how do we move the apps from one place to the other, right? And public cloud vendors, they develop this 7R model, right? And it usually, I find it's a 7 kind of choices, but I find it really binary, right? Usually, it's a simplified model, but you have to ask yourself, is the app that I need to move, like I'm moving in this journey, is it the app generating, revenue generating app? And then also the second question that you can ask next to it is, can this app be modernized, right? So how hard is it to break this into like, let's say, different components and run it in a native Kubernetes or native cloud? So let's focus on so when the customer asks me which one do you want to go, like which one should I move first, I want to myself go and ask ChatGPT and tell me, which way should I go. But for me, it's usually, I like starting with the low-hanging fruits, right? So I usually like to pick the applications that don't need any refactoring. We're just going to lift them and shift them to another platform. So when we call this model a rehost. Relocate is a little bit similar. You're moving from one hypervisor to another, maybe to the same one, but running in another cloud. So think of it like Kubernetes running on a bare metal to Kubernetes running in some managed cloud or public cloud. The retain or retire, those are the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit, right? Imagine having application, maybe you have like 4 last users that are still generating some revenue, but they're not important at all. Why touch them at all? Just leave them where they are and let them die, right? And eventually you're going to retire them. But some of the customers, they do, when they go into this cloud journey, they say, we want to try with the most important application first. We want to test that on this cloud journey first, because if that fails, we don't want to invest anymore in this journey. We just, this is going to be like breaking point for us. So we're going to pick the application that's generating 80% of our revenue, and we're going to refactor, replatform. So just put more effort into it to redesign, to work on this whatever the next platform is. But that's, again, kind of trying to break it into the more binary decision. And then how can you do it, right? So we talked about these different R's, right? But how you can do it in the real life. So again, I kind of break it down in the binary section. If you decide to go with a vendor to help you on the journey, every vendor that provides those cloud solutions, they also come with some sort of tooling that will allow, like most likely they will be able to provide the tooling or consulting that will get you there, right? There's pros and cons to that, right? Like they usually, the pro is they're super polished solutions usually. These vendors, including Red Hat, right? We provide tooling for you to move to our platforms, right? We provide you like really good experience. We're gonna be able to, out of the box, migrate 90% of your applications to those platforms. The disadvantage usually is, it's usually a one-way route. Like the vendor's just gonna help you get on the platform, but they're not gonna help you get back or get somewhere else, right? So the second way of handling in this binary way is you can invest in your people and in the automation tools to take care of or services to take care of the migration yourself, right? So Ansible, Terraform, we see a lot of customers taking advantage of that. And there's a lot of examples out there in the community that help you migrate these applications back and forth between the different platforms. But it does require skills, right? And time as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the business. Like how many here are managers or people responsible for cloud journeys, budgets, decisions? Okay, we have couple. That's perfect. So like I'm talking to you managers and I'm talking to the non-managers because you need to understand what happened behind the tech, right? I'm a techie person, I'm a nerd by nature. So I didn't thought about those things before, right? Like, oh, I just want to write code and I want to deploy my code and I want to fix it later. So that was all the things I was thinking. But decisions in companies are based on the business side, and the value that those decisions and those tech investments will bring to the business. So nothing is done, well, let me rephrase that. Nothing should not be done without a business decision behind. Like I met a lot of people that they do decisions by blogs, like that they go to CIO.com or something like that, they read something, oh, this sounds great, let's deploy it, and then they fail. So if you're taking a decision, you are taking a decision because you either want to enter new markets, you either want to increase market share, you want to decrease costs, or you want to attract and retain talent. These are like the four main components of decision making on the business side. Now, when I ask the developers, or when people used to ask me as a developer, what do I want? You know what I want? I want to write code. I want to have self-service consumption. I want to probably git clone something, make it my own, because I'm a big open source guy, and push it. I want to do some automated testing and verification, and I want to do automated deployment. The developer doesn't care. That's a reality. So usually, there is a business mandate. Hey, we are going to provide this service to add this value. But the developer, he just wants to do his things. Developers want to write code, and they want to focus in delighting their users by their work. So how do we connect these two things together? That's the big part of the conversation. How do we, on the business side, talk to our tech side and let them know what they are doing is for the business at the end of the day? That's a big disconnect that we usually work. Now, these things have become even more difficult nowadays. Why? 20 years ago, when I entered the workforce, they were not cloud computing. We have servers, and in order to provide service, you have to buy your server, you have to go to the data center, you have to rack it, you have to deploy an OS, then you have to push your application, and so forth and so forth. And that process took days, weeks, or months. That was the usual. Then cloud computing was born, and all of us changed the way that we see service delivery. Now, if you are an infrastructure provider in your company, if you provide IT services in infrastructure, your customers, they are expecting that you provide security and the utilities. And those utilities are that the services that you're providing, they have scalability, availability, and reliability with security. So that's like a given right now. Like there is not other expectation on the marketplace right now out there. Like if you are on the IT business, you are expected to provide that. Anyone knows poker? Like this is a poker reference, you know, like the table stakes. That's the minimum that you are allowed in order to sit on the table of poker. So this is the minimum. Like right now out there, this is the minimum that you need to provide in order to play the game. You need to provide these 4 things. Now, hyperscalers took it even further now, and they're really good at providing these other 4 things. They are even really good at self-service delivery, reusable services, reusable components, and what we call the automagic elasticity. You know, like, hey, there is no finish or end here. If I want to get like a petabyte of storage and I could pay for it, most likely these people that I am buying from, they could provide it. So that makes even things more complicated for IT providers nowadays, because the expectations keep changing, and now IT providers need to go to that other bucket, and they need to go above the table stakes line. But things get even more complicated, and we go into the platforming operating model, for example, where the developer sits. The developer doesn't care about the bottom up. The infrastructure guys should take care of that bottom component. You know, like on anything under the line of the developer, they think that it's magic. You know, like and by the way, the business doesn't even care about that part. The business care about the value at the service at the end. So if you are a developer, you want to operate over that developer value line. And that's what you want. You want developer experience, you want to have your reusable components, reusable service, and you want to have the support and experience that will allow you to delight your end user. So the business is changing, the business has changed, and the good news and the bad news at the same time is gonna continue to change. Now, we talk about business, we talk about the apps, we talk a little bit about the developers and the users, but how the cloud journey that you want to take looks. And that's a big component. And every company out there, if they want to survive, they are becoming a software company. But becoming a software company is not enough. Companies need to become the right software company. Because if they don't do, they will fail, and they will be eaten, and they will be destroyed by the competition. So retail companies, they move into e-commerce. We have a lot of financial companies becoming FinOps. Like we have Uber that ate the cab industry. So these are like really good examples of becoming the right software company. The other component is what Chris was talking about. If you want to succeed on your cloud journey, you need to start with the workload. If you don't start with your workload, then you are going to fail. And I'm not saying this because I read it on a blog. I am saying this because I've seen it dozens and dozens of times out there on the field, working with customers, and see them go through this process, like trying to do like some automagic architecture to serve nothing, and then they go and they fail because their workload doesn't meet the requirements of their end customer. So you need to start with the workload.
Yeah, we sometimes refer them of building empty stadiums, right? The customer was gonna, or the IT department is gonna come up with a great idea saying, hey, we need to build a cloud to compete with, our developers are going somewhere. We need to compete with that. We're not gonna talk to them what they need. We just want to build this awesome platform, this cloud
and they
platform.
will come because it's magic, it's amazing.
Yeah.
No, they won't, Your cluster will be there empty, nobody's gonna use it by you. And then you're going to fail because the business is going to come ask you, hey, where do you spend all that money? What are you making out of it? And you won't have an answer. Yeah. The other component is like you need to involve all the stakeholders. You need to bring security. You need to bring networking, storage, the compute people, the different application stakeholders that are on top of your platforms. So that's how you win. You need to make everyone part of your conversation from day zero. This cannot be a day 2 conversation. This needs to be a day 0 conversation. Your stakeholders need to be there. They need to be doing that happy dance at the end of the meeting. And what we find out is like most of the time, these stakeholders, even when they work for the same company, they never talk to each other. They don't even know how they look. They talk through ServiceNow tickets. Like, hey, I need a network port open, or I need this and that. That's how they communicate. They never been on the same room. So bringing everyone on the same room to talk about cloud, That's really important if you want to succeed. And it doesn't need to be on the beginning of your journey. If you are failing right now on your journey, and you don't have to raise your hand, if you are in a failure state right now, or you are still, it's time to bring back your stakeholders and have that kind of conversation with them.
Yeah, so just to add to it, like we had some examples of the customer. We built like this really amazing, private cloud for them with all the bells and whistles. But the team never engaged the security team to help with the design and with the development. And then even though we had the best cloud in the world, they could not run any application on it because they were not approved by the security team. So they ended up wasting time and resources for building something that was not approved by all of the stakeholders.
Yeah. The next one is really important. It's like you need to change the ways that you are working right now and the way that your organizations are structuring. And I keep having this conversation with different execs across the globe that are our customers. I go and I talk to them like, hey, why are you failing? And they never think about this one. And this is one of the beginnings of things that are going to go wrong. If you are trying to go and adopt cloud native and be more cloud ready, and you don't change the way that you are working and the way that you are structuring your teams, you are going to fail. And it doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm going to change who people report to. At the end of the day, in companies nowadays, we have that doesn't matter. It's who people work with. So if you don't do that, unfortunately, you are going to fail. Because I've seen it again. This is not out of theory. This is not out of a book. These are of real experience. The way that usually we see these new platforms to be adopted properly is changing the way of work and the way that the team organize by adopting DevSecOps with an open culture. At Red Hat, we're big on open culture. Like, we believe that open culture fosters innovation and collaboration everywhere where it's adopted. So I think that's the way that we tell customers to do it. And when they do it like that, when they bring everyone to the same table from different teams to work together, to voice their opinions, and to get those opinions listened to, that's the way that we see customers succeeding. So for us, it's really, really critical in a way of winning in the cloud, changing the way that you organize and the way that you work.
Yeah, so another consideration, and it's probably the most important, is consider the cost for building that cloud. And it's not just from like the revenue generating perspective, but when you put the budget for building the cloud, consider the value for like going back to the very first slide that Julio presented. Consider where's the return on investment on that investment, right? And then finally, and this is probably one of the most important thing you can get out of this session, automate everything, right? Like in going into this journey and building these new cloud platforms, you don't want to get stuck in your old ways of maintaining this infrastructure, right? Everything you add to, think as a SRE again, right? Think about like how the hyperscalers are managing their public clouds, right? They're not, even though they're reactive to the issues that are occurring in these public clouds, as soon as they hit a problem, they automate everything out of it just to make it a smooth experience, right? So you wanna focus on automation from the day one. Again, and don't treat your application as a pet, if you will, but automate it entirely. And we're almost at the end. I know we want to be respectful of everyone's time, but this is another super important aspect. There is no finish line, right? Like a lot of customers we talk to, they're like, okay, we're putting this 2 years plan for building this cloud, and we're gonna have like a solid, perfect solution at the end, and we're gonna go back and spend the rest of the time in Aruba, laying down and sipping some drinks. There's no finish line in maintaining this public cloud application. Like vendors that you work with, they're gonna deprecate products. Something that was a good idea 2 years ago when you build it, it's not going to be a good idea. It might not be a good idea, the 2 years later. The only constant is change, right? So make sure you're ready to, when you finish that one phase, you're already thinking about the next phase and how you can improve the processes, how you can improve the platform that you've built.
And your business is going to change most likely in 2 years, Like when you went and you build that cloud platform and you brought an application of that platform, your business have one mandate. Like, hey, we're going to provide this service to the user. In 2 years later, that will most likely change. If you want your business to be alive, that have to change. So there is no finish line per se. You are going to be in a continuous momentum at that point. Like you are going to come back and you have to do things. If you are a platform person, you have to think more like a developer. You need to have a backlog, like in your cloud journey. It's not like, oh, I'm going to bring my infrastructure and I'm gonna be done. No, like you need to have a backlog. You need to curate your backlog. You need to have, like, you need to go through this, treating your platform as a product at the end of the day, as a piece of software. That is gonna be really important, and it will help you probably not to fall in that hole like that guy, but it will help you, like make progress and meet your business requirements.
Yeah, I think we're at the top of the hour. We have a couple more minutes if there's any questions. We're also going to be in the booth in the marketplace for the Red Hat. If you guys have any questions, we can.
Yeah, we have like a couple minutes for questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is not like the super technical, but I think that like this is like the conversation that nobody wants to have. Like most of us we are like tech people, and we want to go and write code and be alone in our desk. But we don't think about the business side. Like I think that it's time to start rethinking about the business components and how can we do better as a whole. Like the tech part and the business side, working towards common goals that is like delivering value to customers. Questions?
Can you go to
you
the
could
microphone?
Go to the microphone. You don't want to? That's fine. Oh, sorry, that was part of the template. We just dumped it there. Don't worry. Like you could move those slides. We don't care. We're really open.
It's a user error on our end.
It's a user error.
Sorry
That was my fault. Okay. No questions?
All right.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.